Hello, I'm your storyteller for tonight. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share where you're tuning in from. Now, settle in, get comfortable, and let the story carry you away. The whispering road to Everwood. The hum of the highway had been my only companion for hours, a monotonous lullaby that usually soothed the restless corners of my mind. Tonight, however, it felt like a prelude to something unsettling. My name is Ilara Vance, and for a decade I've chased forgotten histories, mapping the faded whispers of the past. My current obsession? A series of cryptic notes from an antique collection hinting at a settlement named Everwood, a place stubbornly absent from every modern cartographical record. It was an academic pursuit, yes, but also a personal pilgrimage, a search for the edges of the known world, perhaps to find a lost piece of myself in its uncharted wilderness. The last flicker of my GPS had died an hour ago, somewhere amidst the winding, unpaved roads of what should have been an empty stretch of the Appalachian foothills. My antique compass, a relic from a century past, spun erratically, as if confused by the very fabric of this forgotten land. Just a signal dead zone, I'd murmured, though a prickle of unease had already begun its slow crawl up my spine. The forest, once a comforting embrace of towering pines and rustling leaves, now felt like a thick, silent curtain, pressing in on all sides. The late afternoon sun, usually a warm artist painting the sky, now bled a sickly, bruised purple across the horizon, casting shadows that writhed and stretched like skeletal fingers. Every instinct, finely honed by years of solitary exploration, screamed for me to turn back. But the academic in me, the seeker of hidden truths, urged me forward. This was it. This felt like the threshold. Just as the last sliver of daylight vanished, swallowed whole by the encroaching gloom, the dense canopy of trees abruptly parted. There, nestled in a clearing bathed in an otherworldly, phosphorescent glow, lay Everwood. It wasn't on any map, yet it stood before me, undeniably real. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't the crumbling, overgrown ruin I'd anticipated. This was a tableau frozen in time. Quaint, meticulously maintained Victorian-era houses lined cobblestone streets, their windows dark, yet somehow watchful. A lone, ornate gas lamp flickered at a central intersection, casting an anachronistic, sepia-toned light on a deserted town square. The silence was the most profound I had ever encountered. Not the peaceful quiet of nature, but an absolute void, a vacuum that seemed to suck the very sound from the air, leaving only the frantic thrum of my own heartbeat. I eased my vintage Rover onto the cobblestones, the soft rumble of its engine an obtrusive roar in the oppressive stillness. Every creak of the suspension, every pebble displaced, felt like a thunderclap. My historian's mind raced, filled with a giddy mix of disbelief and triumph. This was an archaeological gold mine, a perfectly preserved ghost town. I parked near what appeared to be the town's general store, its faded hand-painted sign proclaiming Oak Haven Provisions, established. I stepped out, my boots echoing unnaturally loud on the cobblestones. The air was cool, impossibly still, and carried a faint, almost imperceptible scent, like old potpourri mixed with ozone, strangely cloying and metallic. As I stretched, my gaze swept over the meticulously kept but lifeless storefronts. Not a single light, not a flickering candle, yet the glow permeating the town seemed to originate from within its very essence, casting long, unmoving shadows. Just then, a figure emerged from the alleyway between two buildings. An old man, his back hunched, slowly sweeping what appeared to be an impossibly clean sidewalk with a worn-out broom. His clothes were from another century, a tweed waistcoat and patched trousers, yet they showed no sign of age or wear. His movements were fluid, unnervingly graceful for someone his apparent age. "Evening," I called out, my voice sounding strained and thin in the silence. "Could you tell me how to get back to the main road? My GPS failed." The broom clattered to the ground with a surprisingly sharp sound, startling me. The old man froze, his head slowly, deliberately turning towards me. His eyes, when they met mine, were unsettling, pale, almost milky, and utterly devoid of expression. They seemed to stare through me as if assessing not my presence but my essence. A tight, almost painful smile stretched his lips, revealing teeth that were too white, too uniform for someone of his age. "Main road?" he rasped, his voice like dry leaves skittering across pavement. "There is no main road from here, traveler, only Everwood. And once you're here," his smile widened, a chasm of unsettling joviality, "you're home." Every nerve ending in my body screamed in protest. The historian in me was overridden by the survivalist. I backed away, reaching for my car door, my hand trembling so violently I fumbled with the handle. The town, which had seemed deserted moments ago, now began to stir. Figures emerged from the shadows, from behind storefronts, from the doorways of the houses, even from the seemingly impenetrable forest line. They were all dressed in period clothing, their faces blank, their eyes the same pale, unsettling milky white as the old man's. They moved with a disturbing uniformity, a slow, deliberate shuffle that spoke of a collective consciousness rather than individual will. "My family is expecting me," I stammered, my voice barely a whisper, forcing myself to maintain eye contact with the old man, who was now slowly advancing. "I truly must go." "Family?" A woman's voice chimed in from the gathering crowd, her tones saccharine sweet, utterly devoid of genuine warmth. She wore a high-collared lace dress and a severe bun, her face a porcelain mask. "But we are your family now, dear, and we have been waiting." Her words were punctuated by a low, guttural murmur that began to rise from the crowd, a sound that was less a chant and more a collective, hungry hum. My fingers finally found the door handle, and I wrenched it open, diving inside the Rover. I fumbled with the keys, desperately jamming them into the ignition. The engine coughed once, twice, a pathetic whimper against the rising hum of the townsfolk. They were pressing in now, their pale faces inches from my windows, their unsettling eyes fixed on me. I could see the woman with the lace dress, her hand leaving a faint, frosty imprint on the glass as she placed it against my window. The glass, impossibly, began to fog, not with condensation, but with intricate crystalline patterns, forming distorted, ghostly faces. Faces of despair, of longing, of silent pleas for release. The hum intensified, vibrating through the car's chassis, through my very bones. It was a resonance, a frequency designed to disorient, to paralyze. "Please," I whispered, tears stinging my eyes, my hand shaking uncontrollably as I turned the key again. The engine roared to life. A miracle, or perhaps a cruel twist of fate. "Hold on," I screamed, slamming the car into drive. The Rover lurched forward, tires squealing on the cobblestones as I accelerated. The townsfolk scattered, their uniform movements breaking into a frantic, almost puppet-like scramble. I didn't look back, just floored the accelerator, driving blind through the twisted, shifting streets of Everwood. The quaint houses seemed to contort and reconfigure, familiar landmarks appearing and disappearing in impossible sequences. Every turn I took, every alley I sped down, seemed to loop me back to the central square, to the flickering gas lamp that felt like the town's malevolent heart. The old woman's raspy laugh, now multiplied by hundreds of voices, echoed in my ears, a chilling symphony of triumphant malice. "You can't leave!" the collective voices shrieked, the sound seemingly emanating from the very stones beneath my wheels. "You belong here. You are us." Gritting my teeth, determination overriding sheer terror, I forced myself to focus. I saw it then, a faint, shimmering distortion at the far edge of the square, where the trees began anew. A subtle warp in the air, like heat rising from asphalt. Yet in this frigid, unmoving atmosphere, it felt utterly alien. It was the only direction I hadn't tried. "Not today," I yelled, pushing the rover to its absolute limit, the engine screaming in protest. I hurtled towards the shimmering anomaly. A wall of townsfolk materialized before me, their pale, glowing eyes fixed on my trajectory, their forms coalescing into an impenetrable barrier. I didn't hesitate. I held my breath, clutched the steering wheel, and aimed directly for their center. There was a sickening thud, a cacophony of shattering glass and splintering wood as the car plowed through the spectral mass. The impact jolted my body, slamming me against the seatbelt, but I felt no physical resistance, only a strange cold current washing over me. The shimmering anomaly rushed towards us, engulfing the car in a blinding flash of white light, and a sensation like being torn apart and reassembled at a molecular level. Then, silence and darkness. I woke with a gasp, my body aching, my head throbbing. My rover was crumpled against a guardrail, steam hissing from its mangled hood. Around me, the familiar, jarring sound of highway traffic. The sun, a brutal, unforgiving orb, beat down on my face. I was on the side of a modern highway, miles from where I'd entered the forbidden byway. A kind-faced trucker who had pulled over rushed to my side. "Miss, are you all right? Looks like you had a nasty crash. How did you end up here?" I could only stare at him, my mind a jumble of disjointed horrors. Everwood, the faces in the glass, the hum, the old man's smile. I tried to speak, but only a hoarse croak escaped my lips. Later, at a small-town hospital, the police looked at me with a mixture of pity and skepticism. My story of a town not on the map, of ghostly figures and a car that drove through people, sounded like the ramblings of a traumatized crash victim. They found no trace of an unpaved road, no abandoned town, nothing but dense, unremarkable forest where I claimed Everwood stood. They chalked it up to delirium, to a concussion, perhaps even to my prior academic fixations. But I knew the truth. As I recovered, my physical wounds slowly healing, the internal ones festered. I searched relentlessly, scouring digital archives, old maps, local legends, anything that might corroborate my experience. I found nothing on Everwood. It was as if the town had simply blinked out of existence the moment I left it, or perhaps the moment I entered it. The old man's words haunted me. "Once you're here, you're home." And the woman's, "We are your family now, dear, and we have been waiting." I often caught myself staring into mirrors, searching for those pale, milky eyes, for the ghostly imprints of despair. I felt a subtle shift within me, a persistent awareness of a thinness in reality, a faint echo of that collective hum. It was as if Everwood had left a tiny, invisible fragment of itself inside me, The academic quest for lost places had become a personal burden, a chilling realization of the true cost of forbidden knowledge. I stopped chasing the whispers of history. Instead, I found myself drawn to quiet, out-of-the-way places, particularly on long, desolate roads. Sometimes, when the evening light dims just right, and the air hangs heavy with an inexplicable stillness, I swear I see it. A flicker of phosphorescent glow on the horizon, a whisper on the wind, like dry leaves skittering across pavement, calling my name. I never take shortcuts anymore, but I often drive slowly along those remote byways, scanning the tree lines, a quiet sentinel. I carry the knowledge of Everwood, a silent warning to any lost traveler who might stumble upon a town not on any map. My purpose now, a twisted culmination of my past obsessions, is not to find new lost places, but to prevent others from finding it. Because I understand now, Everwood isn't just a town, it's a hunger, and it always, always has room for one more. I am its reluctant guardian, forever bound by the chilling truth of a place that exists only for those who are meant to be lost. And sometimes, in the darkest hours, I wonder if my escape was merely the first step in an elaborate, eternal welcome home. The hum, faintly, distantly, continues, and I am listening. Everwood never lets go. Once you've heard its name, it knows yours. Thank you for listening tonight. Sweet dreams.